I hereby call the Special School Committee meeting for Sunday, March 15th, 2020, it being 3 o'clock. I'd ask everybody in attendance, let's please stand and salute our American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. School committee members, first of all, I want to thank you for being here on a Sunday. I want to thank our superintendent of schools, Mike Thomas. I want to especially thank the City Council President Shirley Azak and City Clerk Tony Zioli for letting us use the City Council chambers. This is being televised. I want to thank Dr. Jim Cobbs, all the Petronial, June Saber-McGuire for being here. And school committee members, I also want to introduce you to John McGarry. As you know, John is a former ward city councilor, a former councilor at large, a former department head, retired. He headed up the elections commission here at City Hall. And I named him on Friday. It was a confirmed vote by all 3 board members. He is the interim acting executive director, health officer for the city of Brockton. He's a registered nurse. He's the right man for the job. He'll do it for maybe 4 to 5 months at the most, but we need him now. And I want to publicly thank you, John, for stepping up during this health crisis. It's really important. I appreciate it. That being said, I have to read the agenda because there has been some changes. The agenda, number 1, COVID-19, prevention, efforts, and strategic planning. And then I just need to read this caveat. Out of respect for public health and in response to the governor's declared state of emergency, this meeting will be closed to the public, and interested parties can instead access the deliberations via a live stream featured prominently on the Brockton Public Schools website, bpsma.org. This meeting is being held in accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's signed open meeting law dated March 12, 2020, which relieves a public body from the requirement of Section 20 of Chapter 30A that it conduct its meeting in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provisions to ensure public access to the deliberations of the public body for interested members of the public through adequate alternative means. And we've achieved that today through the efforts of the City Council and the City Clerk. It is being televised on Brockton Community Access. With that being said, thank you very much, Mr. Superintendent of the Schools. Mr. Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been a long week, but I appreciate your support for always being available by phone. I want to appreciate the Mayor's support for he and I have met countless times over the last several days. Obviously, we're in unprecedented times with the coronavirus, and we're all doing our very best to make sure our students and staff and our community stay healthy. So I really appreciate your support. I want to thank the support of my executive team for how hard they've worked over the last 2 weeks. We're always on the phone together. I mean, we were on the phone pretty much the last 3 days, pretty much constantly trying to make sure that we get everything ready to provide for our families. We know that closing school for 2 weeks, that's a decision that you don't make lightly, and knowing the burden that it puts on our families, especially our working families, and it's very difficult for families, so we're going to do our best to support them during this 2-week closure. At this time, we're closed from Monday, March 16th, all the way, and we would hope we can reopen on Monday, March 30th. Obviously, this is changing pretty much now by the minute as information continues to come in. The Mayor, myself, we get updates from the CDC and the Mass Department of Public Health constantly, so as updates come, we will share them with you. And again, things could change as this fluid situation continues to evolve pretty much hour by hour. So I just wanted to go over the plans and the efforts that we've been going through, and obviously jump in and ask questions at any point. So I'll start with the school lunch program. As you know, we are a free district, free lunch district, breakfast and lunch district. So we provide meals for all our students, and we are ready to do that starting tomorrow. So right now, with the work and the cooperation with Aldo Petronio and Chartwell's Tom Burke, there's nobody better than Tom Burke. I'm thrilled that we have him on our team in Brockton. he jumped right into action with Chartwell's without even any hesitation. So right now, we'll be serving lunches Monday through Friday at 4 satellite locations. First will be Brockton High School. That will serve the west side in the area near Brockton High School, North Middle School, East Middle School, and South Middle School. That will be our 4 satellite locations. And I'll go over something we've been working with over the last couple days with First Student about transportation. I can go over that after Aldo completes his, just talking a little bit more about the lunch program. So I'm going to bring Aldo up to fill you in on the type of meals, the regulations we're under, so people understand exactly that because we're a free district, we have to make sure that we follow the guidelines set forth by the federal government when we're serving these meals. They're called grab and go. So I'll have Aldo come up and explain that.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, to begin, what we're going to do is, there is food at every location, every school. If not anything else, there's milk at every school. So we're gonna have a driver go and collect all of the supplies we have across the whole district so that nothing will basically expire. We'll bring all that to Brockton High School. Tom Burke has a staff in there that will begin preparing what we call the grab and go. It's breakfast and lunch. They'll be both given out at the same time. So between the hours of 11:30 and 1, as cars pull up, they'll be able to give them both breakfast and lunch. The staff will prepare what we have no real estimate. I mean, we do about 15,000 meals a day in the cafeterias. So what we'll do is we're gonna prepare 4,000 grab-and-go breakfasts and 4,000 grab-and-go lunches, do 1,000 per location. That'll be prepared today for tomorrow. And what we'll do is we have 3 of our 4 trucks stationed. There'll be 1 truck that'll be used for basically deliveries. So as the morning's going, if we find that we're running out of, there's more demand than we have for meals, we'll take the meals they're preparing for Tuesday and start giving them out on Monday to fill in. And then Monday afternoon, and as long as we need, we'll make, if our estimate goes from 4,000, meals to 8,000, we'll continue to make meals on Monday to fully supply Tuesday, because we don't know exactly how many people will show up to all of our sites. So that's kind of the plan in place. Tom put together a menu. The breakfast is breakfast items, the crunch bars and the non-perishable kind of items. Of course, there's milk at breakfast and lunch. The lunch items will be items such as pizza, hamburgers, hot dogs. They'll be cooked and prepared, and they'll be given out with reheat instructions. So if people get home, they're basically going to warm up their meals that they get. There's no way to just do turkey sandwiches at this point because we're not prepared for that. We already have inventory in stock and items that we've ordered weeks ago that are arriving to do these meals. So they'll follow the federal guidelines, which is the adult that arrives with the children, you give 1 meal to every child in the vehicle or who walks up to the site. Adults are not allowed to have a meal. This isn't a free grab and go. In most instances, you would have to check off the child who received the meal, but there's a waiver that Tom filled out with the state that's being used statewide. We're allowed to just click. So if there's 3 students in the car, they'll click 3 times and we get counted and we get reimbursed for 3 meals. So it's part of what they consider the summer food program, which is what they do at a playground when kids show up. So we'll have an officer stationed at each site. We'll have cones set up. I've given you driving patterns of what we expect the cars to go through to try and minimize any sort of traffic jams and try to expedite the whole process of the give and go, of the grab and go as the program goes on for the 2 weeks. Each day will adjust from the prior day. So again, if we're short, the first day we'll have some backup to cover it, but then we'll adjust the production of the meals for that. Tom's already spoken to the union president of the cafeteria union, and they'll bring in whatever we need for people to run this. We've had an onslaught of people volunteering. Right now, we've told them thank you. At this point, we don't need it, but if something changes, and we do, we have that access. School teachers, custodians, paras, they've all been volunteering to help. So that's great that they've all reached out to us. And we are expecting some supplies to come in. So we're doing everything out of Brockton High School. All of the sites that are set up, no one's going in a building. Everything's happening outside. We have a tent, we have, again, the traffic pattern, but no one has to enter the buildings. We're not going to allow people to go in and use the bathroom if they pull up. The buildings have been cleaned and they're sanitary, so we're not going to allow anyone back in those, until we decide to open for schools. With that, have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Petronio? Aldo, thank you very much.
So going back to the sanitizing and disinfecting, so custodians finished that yesterday. So the only school that now is going to be, the only part of a school that's going to be used is the BHS kitchen. And that will be only authorized personnel between the custodians that will be cleaning when they're done, and the food service workers that will be providing, obviously preparing the meals, and then the drivers that will be in delivering those to locations. All other schools are closed and off limits to everyone. I've sent this message out several times to our employees. School police are still working. They'll manage this and make sure nobody's entering buildings, because people do have fobs to get into buildings. They would set an alarm off, but they are monitoring our schools. And the importance of that is we have gone through, over the last 3 days, disinfecting, making sure all hard surfaces have been disinfected. And as you know, 14 days has been the guidance to keep things disinfected and stay away from them. So that's the importance, that we cannot have people going into schools. And people have asked for all kinds of reasons, and can we go to the gym? Can we go to the weight room? And my answer is no. No one can go into schools, and the only place we're allowing people in are the authorized personnel going into Brockton, the Brockton High School kitchen. And obviously, myself and a couple of the executive team members will be working in and out of Central. But other than that, we need to keep the schools safe, healthy, and disinfected, so no one is allowed to go into the buildings. We are developing a plan over the next few days, because there's been several parents have reached out to us about their students' medications. Some of these medications are locked up in the nurse's office. These are very expensive medications, and we do not want parents having to go out and buy these medications again. So I'm working with Sharon Wolder. I'm working with our head of nurses, Linda Cahill, to make arrangements to be able to get those for nurses, because they have, these are all locked up and only the nurses have access, to try to figure out how to get access to those medications and give those out to the parents that need them this week. So we're in the process of planning that as well. As far as transportation to the locations with a satellite, lunches are being served. So I was on the phone the last couple of days with Gracious Royster, who is general manager of First Student. She called me yesterday and said, how can we help? And I says, well, if you could provide transportation for families that do not have it to get to the satellite locations. I've also had other community members reach out to me asking, could we pick up lunches and deliver them to homes? And we can't deliver the lunches to the homes. As you know, the child and parent have to be present, or a child and adult have to be present. So if we can, and I'll get back to people that have called me today to say, if you can pick people up at their houses and then bring them to the location, then we could give them the lunch. But we can't give lunches for someone to take 12 lunches and deliver them. It's against the regulations. So I'll work that out with people who've been contacting me. But right now, this is the plan, and we'll see how this goes. And right now, we are proposing that we would pick up twice and take parents with, and again, they have to have their children with them, would pick up once at 11 a.m. and once at 12. And we will get this out. This would start on Tuesday. So Jessica will make sure this message goes out tomorrow in a phone call to parents and also a text message. So for Brockton High School, we would pick up at 11 and at 12 at the Hancock School parking lot and at the Unknown School parking lot. And we'll work with Gracious if that has to be expanded. And the Hancock School and the Unknown, they would go to Brockton High School. And then they would be brought back to the Hancock School parking lot and the Unknown parking lot. For North satellite location, we would pick up at Chatham West, the entrance to Chatham West, and we would pick up at the George School. And again, that would be at 11 o'clock and at 12 p.m. And then east, we would pick up at the Ashfield, the Brookfield, and the Baker. And they would go to east and then go back to those locations. Again, these would all be pickups in the parking lot. And then for south, we would pick up at the Davis and at the Gilmore. And Gracious right now has 4 buses ready to roll. We could expand this if she's able. Again, she has to get volunteer drivers. This is all volunteer. We are not being charged for this service. so there is no charge. So if she gets more drivers, and we'll see if we can expand these locations, but right now, this was what made sense for people to be able to either walk to those locations, get on a bus with their child, and then get to those locations twice during that time, and then get brought back to those locations. So I can answer any questions about that as well.
Any questions for the superintendent? Mr. Sullivan, please.
Excuse me. Aldo had mentioned people can walk up, kids can walk up to the school.
Oh, absolutely. So basically, the reason we put those, because we try to, you hope people within, a half mile or so would be able to walk to the location. So Gracious and I worked on these locations where they obviously were a little bit farther. We knew that these were safe locations to pick up where the traffic wouldn't be an issue. So, but obviously, people are welcome to walk. Obviously, the weather looks pretty good for next week, for this week coming up. So that's a benefit because we'll be serving outside, and it'll be nice weather for people to walk in. So anybody that are close to the schools and can walk, then we encourage them to walk. And that people that can't, we hope would take advantage of the first student free bus service.
What I was driving at, Mike, is the parent have to be with the kid if he walks up?
Yes, a student could walk up and just get a meal. Yeah, if a student and we'll make sure we make that clear, a student can walk up, if they live near east of the high school or north or south and they want to walk up and get the meal without a parent, they most definitely can.
What I was thinking is Battles Farm, the kids could walk to North Junior High.
Absolutely.
But the parents may be working.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like we do the summer food
Okay,
program.
thank
So we will, and I think that was in the message, but we'll make it clear when we send it out again that, a student can just walk up. The point was, what we were saying is that a parent can't come up and say, I have 6 kids at home, can you please, I need to take 6 lunches and go back, or I have 3 kids at home, can I take that? Yeah, kids can come up at any time and grab it, but if a parent comes up or an adult comes up to get a lunch, they have to have the children with them.
Okay, thank you.
And then we're sending calls out. We're putting things on our website. We continue to send out text messages, and if we could help get the word out, and those people that are out that are real popular on Facebook, if they can put our text message, how people can get our text messages, if you can put that out on your pages, it would really help. We can't send out. I can't continue to basically call people asking them to, it's against the law for me to reach out and continue. I can't text the whole, everybody that we have and say, here's our text messages. I can only do that once in a calendar year. So if people can put out to text yes to 67587, if you can text yes to 67587, then that would sign you up for all our text messages. We have about 50% of our current parents that are signed up for text messages. So if we could get close to 100%, that would be great, because that's really the most efficient, quickest way. I'm like a lot of people, you get a voicemail and you don't listen to it till, if you don't recognize the number, you listen to it like a day or two later, because I get so many calls. So the text message is really quick, and people can look at it quickly. So again, text yes to 67587, and if people can put that out there for us, I'd really appreciate it. And that would really help people get the most up-to-date information. Anybody have any other questions about transportation or the meal service? Oh, I'm gonna take Tony first.
I know the school locations that are chosen right now, they're most on the outskirts. How come we didn't use Arnone as one of the locations where we have a big group of people that live downtown?
I mean, we could, it was mostly the traffic. Yeah, but we can consider that.
And also, how are we tracking, for example, let's say, a family drives up to West Junior High and grabs a meal, and the next thing you know, they're zipping right through to Brockton High to grab a meal, because I could see that being an issue.
Yeah, that's almost impossible for us to track. If it gets to be an issue, we'd have to, school police will be present at every location. And again, if that's something we find as a huge problem, we're gonna have to try to address it. But at this time, it's kind of really hard to monitor and police that. We're hoping that, people don't do that, but we'll do our best to try to track it and Yeah, we do get reimbursed for every meal, so it would cause us to continue to make, more meals, but we're hoping that we can somehow monitor that if that becomes an issue. But as we go through this first 3 days, we'll see what the numbers are like, and again, if we have to add a location, we've been doing this, quickly, so we're hoping, we have no problem looking to add another location in downtown.
So just for clarification, is this starting tomorrow?
Yes.
The 16th? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the food service starts tomorrow at the satellite locations, and the bus service will start on Tuesday. Gracious is in the middle with first student working with her drivers, making sure her buses are disinfected, and we'll make sure that we end up getting the word out tomorrow for those pickup locations.
Excuse me, Superintendent?
Yes.
So with regard to the bus service, is that going to be something that is going to run for the entire period that the school is open?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be multiple, people can show up and it's multiple times. It's not just at sort of a 12 o'clock one time?
Well, it was going to be 12, and we're going to be at 11. We're going to pick
Okay.
up at 11, and then they would deliver, and then they were going to go back, and the last pickup would be, they would pick up again, hopefully they get back about 11:45.
So it'll be,
And then-
you think 2 or 3 runs? Or?
They're going to hope to do 3 runs, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're going to hope to do at least 3 runs.
Mr. Sullivan, please.
Mike, two quick questions. I know you have a start date of the 16th. Do you have an end date in mind? I know you said 2 weeks, but
Well, it's going to go as long as we're closed. Right now, we're closed to Friday, the 27th of March, with the hope to reopen on the 30th. If for some reason, as you know, things change, and we're forced to close longer for the health and safety of students and staff and the community, then this will obviously will keep the lunch program going unless things get so bad we go into a total lockdown. Then we're going to have to look for guidance from the state on that one. Because I've heard other states have now starting to go into total lockdowns. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but obviously we'd have to reevaluate and get information from the Mass DPH to see if, we're even allowed to have people come out and get meals. That will obviously, we'll have to get that information as it comes out. But as of right now, we plan on serving these lunches and making them available for as long as we're closed.
the final question, Mike, is,
Yeah.
I forget what I was going to say. I'll pass.
All right, I'll
Rodriguez,
come back to you.
Superintendent, just as clarification, so the students that will be going on the buses need to be accompanied by a parent or an adult?
Yes,
Just so we don't have students thinking they can just go onto the bus, go to the locations, get the lunch, and come back. So they do have to be accompanied by an adult?
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez?
On the, I should have asked this earlier, but are we checking IDs? I mean, I'm looking at our surrounding towns. Are they doing this? Do they have a same feeding process? Knowing that, we can get, families that are coming from, Stoughton, Avon, once we put this out on social media, they know that we're providing these free lunches that they're trying to, piggyback off of the city. I know it's something that, we haven't done, but, are we checking IDs of these parents that are coming in, making sure that they are actually city residents, or?
No, the meals program that we are, even in the one in the summer, does not require us to ask for IDs.
Yeah, 'cause
Actually, we're not allowed to ask for IDs.
Yeah, if we're feeding 17,000 and we look at our numbers and we're feeding 27,000.
Yep. Yep. Again, this is something that's evolving, and we'll plan and see how it goes obviously from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then if things seem like things like that are happening, we're going to obviously have to work with Lieutenant Fedaro, Aldo. Again, I'll be out and about tomorrow at every site as well as Tuesday and Wednesday, and just continue to see, how this evolves and actually make adjustments as we go. But it's a good point.
Just another quick question. So we do have many families that I know receive the blessings in a bag. on Fridays. And those students, have we reached out to the adjustment counselors as we know which students are already in a need for having food at their homes that we can try to make special arrangements?
And not right now. I mean, this has been moving so fast, and my goal and plan was just right now to work with Aldo and get the opportunity for, I mean, that's why we need, if they need meals, they need to come and get the lunches this way. It's really almost unmanageable to do it any other way. So that's why we had to put it out to the whole system, because we are a full system. All 17,000 students are obviously are eligible for free breakfast and lunch, so this was the best way we could do it, to make it available, obviously, to all, which we are mandated to do. So we didn't have a chance to go through and everybody now is home. Again, the only ones I'm working with now are the nurses to come in and do the medication, but again, we'll have to see how things go over the next week.
No, thank you for all that you've all done this past few days, actually the past couple of weeks. So this really came about fast. So I believe tomorrow's going to be a huge, learning.
Yeah.
As far as, tweaking things that we need to tweak, but we really appreciate it, and I'm sure the families appreciate everything that we're able to do for them.
Thank you. And then a couple final, and I'll have June Saber McGuire come up and talk about the online learning activities and the packets of work we're working on. I had a conference call with there was 1,000 people on the conference call Friday morning with Commissioner Riley from the Department of Education and the Commissioner of the Public Health, Department of Public Health. Right now, there is no plans. As of Friday, there were no plans for any MCAS delay. We don't know if there's going to be a change in that, but as of Friday's call, that wasn't going to be the case. I'm sure there'll be more calls set up this week with the Commissioner. The DESC was contacting the state legislature to see if there's going to be if they could get a delay in the submission of the Student Opportunity Act plans. As you know, those are due by April 1st. I was scheduled to do a community forum last Thursday night. I was actually scheduled to visit some churches today that were canceled to talk about it. So we're hoping we get a delay in submission of the Student Opportunity Act, but that was talked about. And just so everybody's clear about makeup days, as you know, we have to build in 185 days. You have to go 180 school days. We always build in 185. So we were scheduled, we had one snow day back in December. So our last day of school was going to be, without any days off, was going to be on June 18th. With the 5 days built in, it took us to June 24th, which is a Wednesday. Right now, the state has relaxed. They usually, if you had more days, they'd make you go all the way to the end of June. Obviously, with this 2-week cancellation and the day we had off this past Friday, they are not making us go beyond 185 days. So we will, the latest we can go to school is June 24th. We cannot go to school beyond that. That's been the regulation, and that could change. They could not change it to go later, but they could, somehow there would be a chance we could get out earlier than that, but we cannot go past June 24th. That would be the built-in 185 days. And so if there's any questions about that.
I've had a few parents and families reach out to me. A lot of them were concerned, are we going to take away April vacation?
No.
Okay, and that's what I figured, but we just wanted to clarify that for those.
Because we don't have to make the days up and we have plenty of time in June for that 185, there is no need to take away April vacation. There's no need to take away Saturdays, any other holidays that are scheduled, so that is not a possibility.
But bear in mind, Mayor Walsh has pushed it a month after us, April 27th, so the City of Boston is going through the April vacation, so it's a fluid situation.
Yes.
I mean, that could happen here in the City of Brockton as well.
Yeah.
So we need to be cognizant of that.
Right. So on that point, if in fact we extend more than 2 weeks and we extend out a month, let's say, with no classes, April vacation would have to be on the table.
To go to school, April vacation?
If for some reason by April vacation, we are safe to return to the schools, and and we extend our period of time, let's say, April vacation is what, April 20th, right?
April vacation is
20th of April?
20th,
All right,
correct.
so let's say we had to go back to school the week before that. Wouldn't we have to consider April vacation?
We would be able to talk about, it's not required. The state's not making you take away April vacation. That would be a local decision. The state is, so the reason why Boston and Everett have gone, those are the two schools, they are encompassing April vacation into that break. So they are coming back the Monday after April vacation, which tells me that they're allowing their students and staff to have April vacation. That's why they've chosen to come back on April 27th. So that's actually a local decision, but it's not required by the state. If these were blizzards and we were canceling all these days, and I actually was a first-year teacher when we had to take away April vacation because of so much snow, that was required by the Department of Education, because obviously you can't go past June 30th. So we used every day in June, and we still had days to make up. We made those up 3 days during April vacation. That was a requirement by the Department of Ed. They are not requiring that this time. So that would be a local decision if we decided to have people go to school during April vacation, but not required.
Now, next week, we had a meeting, didn't we, Tuesday night?
We have a meeting Tuesday night,
So
yes.
are we going into the school, or are we not going into the school?
No, I think we'd have to figure out where to have that meeting, and look at Melinda and I were gonna work on that tomorrow to figure out what we want to do with Tuesday night, and how to have that meeting, and whether we have it. I think we do have the opportunity to have that via
Under
conference
the new
call.
open meeting law, you can do them remotely.
So we could do it through a call. Maybe we should make a motion to decide that before we end today.
Do we want to consider having it down at Central in the GAR room, or is this room available? I don't know.
I don't have the authority on this. President does.
I don't believe there's any meetings here on Tuesday, so as long as there isn't any meeting more than
We'll verify that. So the options would either be here or Central. So one way or the other, you'll know tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's better not to be at the high school.
Absolutely,
just
yep,
to- yeah.
yep. All right, good point. Thank you.
I just have a question, and I know it's a premature question at this point, but I know a lot of students are concerned because we do have our junior prom, April 10th, and a lot of them have either purchased tickets, if someone can look into seeing if that is going to get postponed, or if it might still go forward, depending what happens in a couple of weeks. But I know a lot of them are booking, limos, hairdressers, purchasing, gowns and stuff. So I know we're dealing with the coronavirus, but our juniors and our seniors are also trying to, these are once in a lifetime for them, so.
Yeah, I have no plans on canceling any of those, that into April. We'll continue to follow the guidelines. If there is still a strict guideline in place for assemblies over 250, then obviously we're going to have to talk about that. Students, as far as anything, if they do have to be canceled or postponed, and again, that's if they do, we would obviously make sure that anything they paid for tickets that's responsible for the Brockton Public Schools, they would get refunded. And I would hope limousine companies and those places would refund. But again, I don't want to say right now proms are canceled this early. I think we need to give it another couple of weeks.
No, I know it's still a little premature. I know they was in the process of selling tickets.
Yep.
And I think started the first batch of ticket sales, and I think the second batch was going to be that following Monday, and it would have been tomorrow, I believe, where, just so students know, they'll still have an opportunity to purchase tickets.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
if the activity was to go forward, we would make arrangements for ticket sales. If it was, for some reason, unfortunately, to be canceled, we'd make sure they get refunded for
Okay.
those who have already bought
If someone can
tickets.
just check with, I believe it was Foxborough for the junior prom. I'm not sure where the senior was.
No, it's senior, that's in July. It's junior prom's at Lombardo's.
Lombardo's.
If we can
Yep.
just have someone just check and make sure, because we might be fine, but who knows how the
Yeah, they might end
function
up closing.
facilities might be.
Yep, will
So,
do. Yep.
Just to give them a little reassurance as we get through this the next couple of weeks.
Mr. Sullivan, followed by Mr. Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just was wondering, when is the MCAS testing? Isn't that in April?
No, it was scheduled to start.
The MCAS is scheduled for
The end.
just after April.
Yeah,
Oh, after the April vacation, okay. Because I know some of the people are questioning that, so, okay. Because it's interesting, Boston canceled till then, but then it starts after April vacation, so,
yeah, and again, we're still waiting for the state to,
yeah, make a
give us
call
a
on that.
ruling on that.
Right,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Mike, just a clarification on the school bus. When the school bus goes out to pick up the kids for lunch, the parents have to be with them as well?
For the parents would have to be with kids that are younger. I'll talk to First Student about whether they will allow students on that are a little bit older. I can talk to them about, again, we're still planning that. That's why we're starting at Tuesday. But I can talk to Gracious about, she might allow like high school students on, or kids that are in 8th grade or above. I'll have to talk to her.
Mike, the kids are on the bus every day by
Yep.
themselves. They should be able to take the bus to get a lunch.
Yeah, with elementary kids, together with high school kids, I would want younger kids with their parent. This is again, school,
what if they have to
coming to
go to
school,
work?
coming back and forth to school is difficult, but I would hesitate to put mixed age from high school kids to elementary kids on buses without supervision, so I would encourage, and I don't know if for a student, that's usually against their regulation about how the age of students riding together, so I would have to talk to her. But right now, I would say that the students should be with a parent would need to be with them. I understand parents are working, but again, this is a free service that they're providing, so I really have to go with what their regulations say, and I know that they don't like to mix, put students who are in 3rd grade with the 12th grader, and there's no parent on the bus with the 3rd grader.
Would we maybe think about putting monitors? We have so many people willing to step up and help out. And if they've already been Cory checked, maybe just have bus monitors, those.
Again, this is so early. It's really hard for me to plan that, and I've told all employees to stay home, so again, this is a fluid
Superintendent will
situation,
give us
so.
an update tomorrow
But it
after he
is good
speaks
to
to
know.
Gracious.
I mean, I can see how this runs. Again, this doesn't start till Tuesday, so I think we need to really get it up and running. And there's some questions I just can't answer for you today until this actually gets put into motion. And hopefully, it's smooth, it can go smoothly, so, and if we have to make changes, we'll make changes, but we'll have to go from there.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Anything for Aldo?
So I'm gonna have June come up
Yep.
quickly.
Right, I just want to mention, just so you know, Tom Burke has filed all the proper paperwork with the Board of Health. This is basically a program outside of our schools, so that's in the process in case anyone asks those questions as to, what are you handing out and so on. So that's been done. And then just going back real quick to the locations, we only have 4 refrigerated trucks. Dr. Cobbs and I have been working on this. His military experience is involved in setting up protocols like this. So we got 3 trucks that are stationary, and there's milk and food in those trucks. So to have more than 3 satellites with the high school is difficult. That's one of the reasons why we didn't do more locations. We have to keep the milk cold and make sure, again, we abide by the Board of Health rules. You can't have that milk sitting on the sidewalk and hand out to kids if it hasn't been kept at proper temperature. So the 4th truck will basically be circulating and picking up and dropping off. So if we find that one location doesn't work, we can look at moving it, but it's tough to add a 5th or a 6th location.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. So obviously, there is no replacement for what's happening in a classroom between kids and teachers. So we recognize that, but I think it's important to note that what the superintendent asked us to do as a curriculum team is really to take a district-wide approach to how we are going to support teaching and learning, and really with the recognition that we all understand that it's just impossible to replace what's happening between kids and teachers every day in classrooms. And so, as I said, what we did was we took a district-wide approach to this, and I have to say that yesterday was a really busy day with the Office of Teaching and Learning and lots of curriculum folks who jumped right in to help out in order to be able to, what we hope will be ready to go live tomorrow, which is online resources that will really be easily accessible for parents and for kids. I want to add, again, lots of people were involved in this work yesterday. I want to point out a couple of people, though. Jess Hodges did a tremendous job, and again, by the end of the day today, we'll be able to forward to you what that resource will look like for parents and kids. Kevin DuPont, again, jumped right in. We have Mary Beth O'Brien from the Gilmore, Heather Ronan, again, those people who are really sort of technologically savvy. We really relied on them yesterday to jump in and help us, and lots of other folks in the district. So by tomorrow, we will have ELA, math, social studies, science, and other resources, online resources available for all kids in the district. Until about Thursday, those resources will be available completely online. But we do plan on having printable resources available, and I think that we plan to coordinate with the food delivery folks and to be able to have those resources available at those same sites. So we think, again, really accessible resources, and that we just want to make sure that it's clear that these resources are not a substitution for what's going on or what would be going on in classrooms, but at the same time, the resources are very much aligned with what kids are used to using in their classrooms, so they're not things that will be really unfamiliar to our kids and to our families.
I just wanted to take a minute, thank food service and our transportation partner and everybody that you've been working with on the curriculum side for everything they've put together. There wasn't a lot of time to plan for this. It was really figure it out and figure it out quick kind of situation. So everybody who's worked on this, I just want to thank them and let them know we really appreciate what they've been doing. I also want to thank all the school committee members who made themselves available for my 800 phone calls to them in the last few days. Even while you were working and doing various different things, all of you made yourselves available, so that we could get the input and get the information out there that we needed to. So that's all.
Any other questions? Minicello, please.
Hi, Ms. Saber. How are you? Again, just to repeat what Mark said, your team's doing a wonderful job. With respect to some of the teachers who, and I would say the older students perhaps, that do a lot of online work, some of the teachers, do, have their assignments via computer. Like when my kids were in high school, some of their assignments from some of the teachers were emailed to them. Is there any of that going on at any of the higher levels?
I mean, I'm sure the superintendent would want to address that, but really the directive has gone out from the superintendent that we are taking a district-wide approach to this, and some of that just speaks to, I think, the idea around equity and who has access to resources at any given time, and so that's why we're taking this K-12 approach. As time goes on, I think, as we all know, this is an evolving situation, so we may have to revisit this. Right now, we have, I would say, the resources that would last probably about 2 weeks, but we also recognize that if there is an extended amount of time that we need to plan for, we'll be doing that, and I know the superintendent will be having conversations with the BEA president about what that looks like.
I think this is actually an opportunity for the district to advocate for like-kind districts that our kids don't have one-to-one devices, where there are other districts who have the one-to-one devices, and I know are continuing on with their studies, and these are public schools. So, our kids, because of the, hopefully the new law with regard to funding and education, this, to me, should catapult the funding for our technology budgets, for our one-to-one devices, because neighboring districts are, in fact, just continuing on via the internet, able to do, their normal curriculum, or close to it. Maybe not exactly what they do in school, but close to it, because of the ability of everyone to have access to devices. So,
It's definitely something we've had conversations about, so I understand.
So I'll follow up on that quickly. The commissioner made that clear, because to his credit, he recognized the inequity of this, because on the phone call, he had several of the affluent districts asking, well, we shouldn't have to go the 185, let us go only 180, and we're going to count all this online. And he said, absolutely not. It's not equitable for a lot of the gateway cities. They are not set up for this. And as you know, we've been going through here for the last 8 to 10 years with cuts. We needed to protect what we could do within the school day, within the school buildings. And we haven't been able to have the luxury of doing things online as much as other districts have. So he did step up and say, obviously, we have to look at this with the new funding, but also he is not allowing districts to use online learning to make up days because it's just not equitable across. And I just want to make it clear to parents, these are learning activities for them to do with their children at home and things that they can use to keep their children busy, but none of this will be collected or graded because we cannot hold this against students. So basically, when we return to school, they will pick up exactly where they left off last Thursday. The 12th. So none of this work will say, oh, did you do this at home? Teachers will not be asking for that work. They won't be collecting that work because we're not allowed to count that against students. For some students that just, won't have it or won't do it, there's no way we could be fair to everybody that way. So this work is not required for them to be collected or corrected. So we're going to make it clear that these are learning activities that, families can have their children doing at home. But it won't be counted against them at all.
another point, Superintendent Thomas, was there any conversation with the commissioner about the randomness in terms of one district choosing to do one thing, another district choosing to do another? I mean, most rational people who have a discussion about what's going on basically sort of scratch their heads and say, well, why isn't there leadership at the state level to basically say, okay, this is what we're all going to do. We're all going to take off a week or 2 weeks, and then we will reassess, and then we will all figure out if we need to extend more, as opposed to, we did a couple of days at first to figure out where things were at. Someone else did a week. Someone else did 2 weeks. Boston then does 30 days. 60 days. Everett did 30 days. I mean, it was such a random collection of stupidity, in my opinion, in terms of no one knowing what they're doing and just arbitrarily saying, oh, yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that with absolutely no science basis, no research science, whatever. I mean, they're just arbitrarily coming up with these numbers. I don't know. It just seems to me like...
There was a lot of disappointment after the call on Friday morning. There were 1,000 of us on that call, every superintendent in the district. We were waiting. We were hoping that we would open up. They would open up and say, we want everybody to close for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That did not come. They basically left it up to the local districts to, out on their own, to make these decisions. As you know, I made the decision with you and with the mayor. We talked about it and made the decision Thursday that we needed to close Friday and Monday just to get a handle on this, to see where it was going. And I think that was a really good decision that we all thought about. And again, we take into account what this does to families when we close. But we didn't even get in. I was talking to the mayor, so this gives us a 4-day weekend to see where this thing is going. And we didn't even get through Friday before we had to close it for another 2 weeks. So I agree with you. There's been the direction from the state as far as these closing has not been clear and has not been, across, basically systemic across everybody would have liked to say every district closed. So, some schools are open tomorrow for a half day for students to gather materials and teachers to gather things, and then they're closed for a long time. And I think at this point, every school system in Massachusetts has closed for at least 2 weeks, some longer. But again, when that directive did not come Friday morning, I know there was a lot of disappointed people.
Well, I think that this school district in this city basically faces a lot of issues that other districts are usually following and catching us up on. Obviously, this is a situation, a health situation that none of us has faced. However, the city of Brockton and our public schools are always on the cutting edge of dealing with serious issues, especially issues that put our safety of our children and our staff and our students at risk. So we will, just for the public to know, we will certainly make decisions, as has been going on, in the best interest of our kids. We've always done that. So be assured that the city of Brockton and our team here together, city and school side, will make sure that we do what is right and not do what doesn't make sense to just follow along to get along. We'll make our decisions based on the information, the science, the health experts, but it just seems to me to be a little disappointing with the lack of consistency out there at all levels, because I just think that this is so new. But Brockton will do the right thing, and we will take a cautious approach, and to be continued on basically a day-by-day situation. Who knows what Monday's going to bring?
Absolutely.
So we shall see. But be assured, your kids' interest will be at the forefront of this city, and this body, and this superintendent and staff,
100%.
as always.
And then going back to MCAS quickly, the state is going to have to make a decision about that, because ELA for high school students starts on March 24th. So they have to make that. Hopefully there'll be a decision coming out about the MCAS tomorrow. And finally, for me, I just want to thank Dr. Cobbs, Ken Thompson, Jamie Domestico in our facilities department for the amazing work they've done. And they've been nervous too. They're coming in to clean up against, odds of they don't know. We don't know much about this virus, and how we know a lot about it, how fast it's spreading, but they did not hesitate to come in and disinfect and clean, and they've been doing this for 2 weeks. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank the entire facility staff. I know that they also helped the mayor as well, citywide, so I can't say enough about our custodians and outside grounds crew and travelers, and even our craftsmen who have been working during this time. And again, they will be home with everybody else to keep them safe, but we'll also have a plan with them when we come back, and make sure we do another round of disinfecting, even though schools will be closed, but we're going to do it again before we open. So we have a plan for that, but I can't thank them enough for the amazing job that they've done.
I actually want to just piggyback on that. I want to thank Jim, and I want to thank Jamie, and of course Ken and the superintendent. I also, on the city side, I want to thank Jim Plouffe, the building commissioner, Sandra Wright, HR director, and Dr. Moran, and 1162, the union presidents, because it was a collaborative approach. I was here yesterday morning at 7 a.m. to meet. It was a massive cleanup of buildings, both on the schools and city. I was here again this morning at 7, and there was even more people, more custodians on the school side today. They finished everything that they needed to do. The main library, which is a mammoth building, was done. It will be closed again tomorrow. The library's closed tomorrow. Council on Aging is closed tomorrow, and probably for much more than that, but I'll make a determination. But it really was a great collaborative approach, and they didn't just go and dust it. I mean, they got down and did it the right way. So I do want to thank everybody on that. And before we conclude, I know there's a few more questions. I just want to let you know, give you an update. I did reach out to Senator Markey's office and Congressman Lynch's office, looking for more gloves, more masks, and more disinfectant solutions for the city of Brockton schools. Steve Hook, who's the BEMA executive director, has already put in a request with MEMA. So this is a fluid situation, but we have dialed that up. And I do want to thank Mike, because he and I met countless hours. We've met, I joke, I talked to him more than I talked to my wife, but Brockton was ahead of all the other school districts in the Commonwealth. For an abundance of caution, when we called, through your efforts, when we called Friday and Monday, we were ahead of the game. Boston wasn't going to call it at all. And then we did it for 2 weeks. And again, we'll have to revisit that. I'm going to be on another call just in a little while with all the mayors in the Commonwealth. So thank you. Thank each and every one of you. It's troubling times, it's serious times, but we're doing what we need to do to make sure that the teachers and the students and the parents feel confident. And Melinda, thank you for everything you've been doing as well. Anything else for the superintendent? Mr. Sullivan, please.
One quick question, just to clarify the pay for the workers.
Yes, yep. Every Brockton Public Schools employee will be paid for the next 2 weeks. That's been sent out to them. If they have any questions about that, they can contact HR, but that was in an email from me to them when we decided to close for the 2 weeks. That email went out to all of them. That's all 7 unions we serve, and that's also non-union employees, permanent substitutes, so anybody in that nature that is a Brockton Public Schools employee, they will be getting paid for the 2 weeks that we're off, correct?
That's full and part-time, Mike?
What's that?
Full and part-time?
Aldo would have to answer the part-time.
Depends on the part-time. If it's a program that's beyond their regular day, but everyone is going to be guaranteed their regular day.
Their regular pay.
Okay.
So if they're a part-timer for their regular pay, they'll be getting that regular pay. So they all be getting for whatever hours they usually work. If it's a 40-hour week, they'll be getting paid for their 40 hours. If they're a 19 and a half, a 20-hour part-time employee, they'd be getting paid that 20-hour rate. Whatever they usually would get, their regular weekly paycheck would be getting paid.
Great, that's a nice job, thank you.
You're welcome. And again, and I stress to please, if you can get that out through your platforms, to please text years to 67587, so that you can sign up to get all our text messages. We'll continue to send out text messages. Again, we will continue to send out calls as well, but people read text messages a lot faster than they listen to voicemails. So if we could help get that out to our parents, and anybody can sign up for those text messages, really helps us get the word out and keep people notified. And Jess Hodges, who's done a tremendous job with this, continues to update people, and our website is updated 3 to 4 times a day with information. So, and the quickest way to get updates is through the text messages.
Quick question. Is it possible to have Jess Hodges maybe create something on our Brockton Public Schools page and we can all share it? Simple, big, bold fonts.
Yep.
Just something very simple that we can just keep sharing and have all our PTOs, PTAs share it.
The 675.
Yeah, just actually put it on the Brockton Public Schools Facebook page, and then we can have, I've noticed, actually, I have to, give a shout out to our PTOs, PTAs, a lot of our schools. They've been sharing a lot that's been on our Brockton Public Schools to just get the word out to the parents and definitely the students and the families. So I think that would probably, that way it's consistent, we all have it.
I'll
We
call
just
her when
keep sharing it.
I'll call
Yeah,
her right
just
after this to
something
to
really
put
simple with our letterhead. That way they know it's official.
Yep.
Text it.
Definitely. Thank you.
I just wanted to let folks know that the superintendent and I have already had a conversation, although we may delay doing this at this point, of having a policy subcommittee meeting so that, we had started to talk about doing that and looking at having a protocol for this where we've never had to deal with anything like this. So I just wanted folks to know that once the dust settles and we are through this issue, we'll go back, we'll look at what worked well, what didn't work well, and develop an actual procedure and protocol for this type of thing going forward. Again, it's not something any of us have ever had to deal with before, but we will use the lessons we learn to develop procedures and protocols for this in the future.
Tony?
2 questions. When we talk about deep sanitation of our schools, is the ventilation system included into that? And 2, did our Commissioner of Education have a discussion on the worst-case scenario if we have to extend the closure of schools?
No, I'll answer the second first. No, he did not. There's been no, and he didn't even address at that time. They knew Everett had closed. That was the only district that had closed at that time of the call. For 30 days, that was not addressed. A lot of us were waiting to hear that answer. We have one school system at the time. Now Boston's the second one that's closed beyond for the 30 days or more, and that was not addressed. Again, I'm hoping, I know that he has a conference call today with Tom Scott, who's the head of the Superintendent Association. He's talking to him today, and then I would get bet that there's going to be a phone call tomorrow, another conference call. And then right now, we've been just cleaning all the hard surfaces. We have not been advised, to clean any of the ventilation. I mean, we change our filters out often, and we'll do that again before anybody returns to school. We're always with the help of public property, we change our filters out of our ventilation systems often, but right now our disinfectant has been hard surfaces. We also have some of those disinfectant spray guns. We've been using those. We're waiting for another 30 to come in. So we'll, they should be in within the next 2 weeks. So we'll go through every school, every inch, every square foot, and not only have we wiped down all hard surfaces, we'll also go through with the disinfectant guns and disinfect it well, and that would also take it through our ventilation system.
Anything else before us? Again, we'll get an email out to see the location for Tuesday. You'll get that tomorrow. And then Mike, the superintendent, and I will also give an update. Anything else, Joyce? Do you have one more thing?
I just got a text message, an update, so I think it's very important that we do stress to text the number that you had indicated earlier, because I just got an update as to what's going on here, school lunches, as far as pickup, times, things like that. So it's very important that everybody just spread the word, get onto the text messaging, as we're getting them while we're in the meeting, which is...
And then Jess has already, she just texted me, she already has posted something easy to share about signing up for our text message, because that's already on our Facebook page.
So if we could reach out to our PTOs and PTAs, if our school committee members can just reach out to whoever our contacts are and just make sure we're all sharing it, just to get the word out.
Perfect. It's a team effort. And again, thank you for dropping everything on a Sunday to be here. See you again Tuesday. This meeting's adjourned, and I do want to thank again the council president for letting us use the chamber. Thank you, Shirley. This meeting's adjourned.